Hello and welcome to Inside 11Alive News Investigates. I'm Jonathan Martin. What started as a beacon of hope for desperate fathers has become the subject of mounting complaints and financial questions. Senior investigative reporter Rebecca Lindstrom is joining us now and has spent the past 2 months or so looking into the Atlanta-based nonprofit, the Fatherless Generation Foundation, looking into this for our viewers. So, Rebecca, what does this organization do?
Well, the founder of the Fatherless Generation Foundation says that its mission is in part to reunite fathers with their children. This often involves some kind of bitter custody dispute, or maybe the father isn't being recognized by the court. So the foundation charges a fee to find them a low or no cost attorney. Now, I have seen cases where it's helped pay the attorney bills even when they exceeded that fee. The organization also says it offers counseling and peer support groups. But we talked with several fathers who felt abandoned in court, and we found a trail of people frustrated with how the founder has operated.
I love you from the moon and back.
I love you more than that.
Through the good times and bad.
You always be my dad.
It may seem like a simple chant, but Ken Williams feared he wouldn't get to enjoy these little things when he broke up with the mother of his 2 sons.
It was a dark place.
Darkness that turned to light
Relax.
when he heard about the Fatherless Generation Foundation, an Atlanta nonprofit that could help fathers in custody disputes access no or low-cost attorneys. Williams says he talked with the founder, Tori Evans Barton, and scraped together $300 a week every week.
I never did get an attorney.
Ken says none of the $3,100 he gave Evans went to the attorney who agreed to take his case, so no one showed up in court. That dark place was back. To know that there are other fathers who have been in that position since you.
It's messed up.
11Alive News Investigates found promises broken not only to fathers in several states, but landlords, a career coach, and businesses involved in a proposed TV show.
They hired me to design all of the sets.
What are the words that come to your mind?
Fraud, greed.
The list of lawsuits is long, even though many haven't found Evans to serve her. Most Fatherless Generation offices are just post office boxes or rented meeting spaces. Tara Martinez and Nina Wilson were hired last fall to manage the Fatherless Generation and its programs. They were never paid.
But she told me she had enough money for at least the first 18 months to pay salaries.
We did talk with 2 fathers who say the organization delivered on its promises. Neither wanted to talk on camera, but these positive reviews make it hard to understand why a nonprofit promising hope also leaves a trail of emotional and financial distress.
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
When you see that mixed messaging and the stakes are so high, it is important to check out an organization's credentials. It's how we found out that despite her claims, Emory University has no record of her ever being a student here. And be careful. A cognitive behavioral coach is not the same thing as a therapist, and she's not registered as a mediator with the state.
I think she just didn't think about the consequences of her actions.
In his darkness, Ken started writing negative reviews. He eventually got about half of his money back and won custody, but by representing himself.
So I just got lucky, to be honest with you. I love you from the moon and back.
More than words,
Through the good times and bad.
You always be my dad.
this chant illuminates the story of this father's promise. In Atlanta, Rebecca Lindstrom, 11Alive News Investigates.
All right, back here with Rebecca. So, Rebecca, we heard from that father there, but you have also heard from some fathers who had a positive experience. So, what do they think is going on?
I mean, and that is the confusing part about all of this, because usually when you get these types of complaints, it's pretty straightforward what's happening here. But in this case, we're actually finding people who have been helped. The organization itself says it's reunited more than 3,000 fathers with their kids through its various programs. And we were able to locate 3 of those dads from reviews that were posted online. These successful cases share, though, a common thread. The attorneys involved were working pro bono, meaning the attorneys were doing the work free. That allowed the foundation to keep that administrative fee paid by those dads, which seemed to range from anywhere from $500 to $1,500. But to add to the confusion, as I mentioned earlier, I'd found a few attorneys who had been paid even when their bills exceeded the fee. So it's a lot of conflicting information, and it makes you wonder if she's just got good intentions but is really bad at business. She could be using this money that has been donated to do things outside of the program and then just getting in a jam when some of those bills need to be paid. Or it could be the flip. She may not have a lot of donations and is funding costs beyond the fees out of her own pocket, leading to promises she can't keep.
You know, I got her contact information through a father's group. And, you know, she was quick to get on the phone with me, you know, quick to ask for the money, you know, hounded me to pay her. And then it was like, it was always some excuse of why, you know, I didn't have an attorney. You know, even if I take her to court and I win a judgment against her, I don't care if I don't get a dollar of it, as long as I can make sure she doesn't do this to another dad that's in the situation that I was in.
It was just a runaround, excuse after excuse after excuse. I begged and pleaded with her to, you know, help because my child was being abused. I was on my last leg, and she was always in my ear telling me, "Oh, she's not going to get away with this. We're going to help you fight this and the third." She had no, she had no intentions at all to try to help me at all. Nothing. She just added more pain.
I am a professional development and career coach. I actually cut my pricing in half because I know her. It was the runaround of, supposed to receive money from a client, their check didn't come through. Everything that these gentlemen are saying are things that I've heard, but I never put it together. And that's where I also feel she abused a friendship. And it makes me really think about this whole time, what has been the game plan? Has this all been a part of a plan? Because sometimes people can get so caught up in what I call the Don Quixote mindset that is how they're living.
And that Don Quixote mindset refers to someone who walks through life believing that they are doing something heroic and that somehow justifies any mistakes. Kind of an idea that the end justifies the means.
So we've heard from several different people. You also talked to those two employees giving their perspective. Has anyone else talked to you from the group to tell you what's going on? No, Tiara Martinez and Nina Wilson said that they were never told about any other employees. They say there were vendors like the company who was supposed to process the paychecks, but they couldn't find any active board members or other employees to talk to. Martinez was actually hired to be the executive director, and she said she could never get Evans Barton to give her access to the financial records or bank accounts. And I want to note that these are two people who had jobs, and they left those jobs to take these positions. The reality that they were not going to get paid thousands of dollars happened over the holidays, and that just made it even worse. Both have filed lawsuits, but so far they haven't been able to find her to serve her, so those lawsuits are just gathering dust. And again, it kind of goes back to that question: why post a job ad? Why go through the process of conducting interviews and hire staff if you aren't going to pay them? Yeah, big questions there. So they can't find her, they can't serve her, but you've been able, I understand, to talk to the founder. What did she say? I had a brief phone conversation with her, and during that conversation, she told me that she'd had some medical problems. She'd had some personal difficulties, a divorce. She said those were some of the reasons for the complaints and the unpaid bills. She also claimed she stopped working with some of those clients, even some of the clients that we talked with, after learning what she called troubling information. However, when we asked for specific responses to questions about her credentials and those complaints, she didn't respond, and all of our subsequent calls went unanswered, because certainly there is a lot that I wanted to ask her. I mean, any of the things that we've raised questions about in our reporting were questions that we put before her. We knew that there was an email dialogue going on there because she had responded at least once to our email. We knew that the phone number should work because she'd returned our call on that phone number. But now whenever I call it, it just says this number can no longer take
take or receive calls.
Avoiding some of the serious questions, it seems. So you also, I understand, started looking more into her background.
Right. And this was really interesting because when you start getting this mixed messaging, you want to try to figure out, is there any credibility to the individual behind the activity? So I looked at her educational background. She says she had that master's in biochemistry from Emory University. But when I checked in with the school, like I said, they couldn't find any record of her being a student. And so that was one of my questions to her. Did she go by another name? Could she show me the diploma? Again, no response.
What about her credentials, though, as a counselor and as a therapist?
And this is where little words matter. And most people probably aren't even going to notice the difference in these little words. But on her website, she uses the word coach, like she's a cognitive behavioral coach. She doesn't claim to be a licensed therapist. A therapist is a title that comes with a lot of educational requirements that we couldn't find. And I know it's tough to just think about these things, especially when you are desperate. But if you see mixed reviews about any organization, these are the things that you can look at to help decide if it's worth the risk. Again, we asked her all of these questions. She never answered, nor has she changed any of the information online.
Very interesting. And what about this organization? I know we listed them as a nonprofit. Technically, are they a nonprofit?
Again, nuances, really digging behind the words and the terminology that might be used. You can be a nonprofit in the sense that you don't make any money, but I could find no evidence that the foundation is registered with the IRS for what we would typically think of when we use that term. The organization did file the paperwork several years ago, but never submitted any taxes, so it lost that tax-exempt status. What that means is for donors, vendors, potential clients, you can't get a write-off, and there are no public documents to show just how much money the organization receives or how those funds are even spent. Again, this is the kind of transparency that you should expect with a legitimate nonprofit. And our hope is in doing this story, people will remember that no matter how many articles or write-ups you have seen on an organization, when the stakes are this high, like the custody of your child, do your homework. A good heart does not always mean a good outcome.
That is for sure. Rebecca, thank you so much. We appreciate your reporting. And if you know someone who's been affected by this particular organization, we would like to hear about your experience. You can reach out to Rebecca or anyone on the 11Alive News Investigates team by calling this number, 404-873-9111. Or you can email investigates@11alive.com. Thank you so much for joining us for Inside 11Alive News Investigates. Take care, and we will see you next time.